Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by Vienna Live with Simeon Moore and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please go to the LinkedIn Live video feed, the link to which I've just placed in the chat room. Tonight, our featured guest is Wayne Escoffery, a jazz saxophonist whose latest album, Alone, will be the subject of tonight's conversation. Wayne, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Wayne, so we just listened to the first track on the album, Alone. The title is Moments with You. It's now under consideration for the Best Instrumental Performance of the Grammys 2024. Tell us, first of all, tell us about where you come from, how your musical tastes were formed, and why you decided to become a professional jazz saxophonist.
Well, I was actually born in the UK. I was born in London, but I moved here when I was, I don't know, about 7 or so. I moved to the States. Yeah, and my musical tastes really started from the more contemporary side. I was into people like Grover Washington, and groups like the Yellow Jackets, and then in high school, I was fortunate enough to meet the saxophone legend Jackie McLean, and once I met him, he really introduced me to a broader, palette of music, and then I started getting introduced to people like Dexter Gordon and John Coltrane and Sonny Rollins and so forth. So.
Okay, and was there any defining moment when you said, I want to do this, I want to do this incredibly difficult career path of becoming a professional musician? Or is that you said, I don't want this to just be an amateur effort, I want to dedicate my life to this?
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, I really got inspired to play the music by seeing a lot of people that looked like me, a lot of people of color and African Americans who were, dignified, very, highly intelligent, but also balance that with a certain amount of soul and blues, not just musically speaking, but just their being. So that was my first inspiration. And then, in high school, really, of course, I was into academics as well as music. And then I decided that if, in order for me to be the best musician that I possibly could be, um, I would have to focus and just really focused on music. And then, so that's what I did.
Musicians, I gotta say, when you say that, I think too, wow, these are some extraordinary human beings. Let's have a listen to another track. This is Alone, the title track of Alone. Wayne, so we just listened to the title track Alone of the album Alone. You told us that your calling, you figured your calling in life was to be a musician. You said that's where I belong. That's where I'm supposed to be, is with this group of people. This album, however, is about solitude. It's about you losing that group, that feeling of belonging. Tell us about this album and how it came to being.
Sure. Well, I wrote a lot of the music, in fact, most of the music, and arrangements, when I was in Europe, an extended stay alone in Europe. This is just after I kind of came out of a long relationship. And, generally after something, a traumatic event of sorts, or when I'm feeling pensive or need to be uplifted, music is the thing that I go to. But I actually had just broken my finger, so I couldn't play the saxophone for about 2 months, for about 9 weeks or so. So I found myself in Europe, alone, and really just trying to figure out, what was important to me when I didn't have music to fall back on. And so I did it was a very introspective time, a lot of thinking, very pensive time, a lot of time going to museums and really just kind of thinking about what was most important to me. And so I wrote a lot of this music during that time. So it has a certain flavor to it, I think.
Okay, let's listen to Rapture. Wayne, so tell us about you as a band leader. This is clearly the most important album you've put out since the pandemic, a time of change, great upheaval and change for all of us. You said before that you got into music and you wanted to pursue it as a profession. You saw people that looked like you, that gave you this feeling of belonging. How do you choose musicians? What do you look for in a musician? Here on your album, you've got these people you really, really admire, like Ron Carter. What's important for you as a musician? I know also you're teaching at Yale. What do you look for? What makes it that you want to play with this person and not that person?
Well, I think probably the main thing is the ability to listen and have a certain amount of humility, right? So to not to no matter who you are or where you are in the music business or in your abilities, that you're able to humble yourself to the point where you can put others before you. So if, for example, if you take someone like Ron Carter, who's the most recorded bass player in the world, and who has, played with everyone that there is to play with and pretty much knows everything that needs to be done, he still comes into the studio with a certain amount of humility and ability to listen to someone like me who's decades younger than him, and listen to my musical vision and listen to where I'm taking the music and able to contribute to that in a substantial way. And that holds true with Carl Allen, who's also my senior, and also Gerald Clayton, the great pianist who I'm older than. And again, I'm able to listen to Gerald's input and see what he where he was coming from and how he was interpreting what I was doing. We're able to listen to each other, and I think that's the most important thing.
And can you tell us a little bit more? I was speaking with someone the other day, and he told me, humility, his definition of humility, it's knowing who you are and also who you're not. What's your definition of humility?
Well, I think that's a good definition, and also just the ability to put others' desires, concerns, and needs um, either before yours or at least give them the same amount of consideration.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, let's have another listen. This is the Ice Queen. So this brings us to the philosophical portion of our conversation that I know everyone looks forward to every week. The title of this conversation is not music effects, musical affect. Wayne, in the introduction to his famous treatise, first published in 1752, Johann Joachim Quantz writes, and this is my translation to English from the original German, quote, in any given piece of music, the dominant affect to be imparted through its performance is found in the words at the top of the page, such as allegro, allegretto, allegro non troppo, allegro assai, allegro di molto, presto, allegretto, andante, andantino, arioso, cantabile, spirituoso, affettuoso, grave, adagio, adagio assai, lento, mesto, and many more. All these words, when deliberately considered, each call for a specific performance style, not to mention that each and every piece mixes of the above mentioned characteristics in a unique way, even just in one measure of music. The affect can jolt from joyful or playful to sad and serious, end quote. Fast forward to 2025, and in the liner notes to Alone, you write, quote, the music for this album alone was conceived during times of extended solitude, time spent alone in my thoughts, coping with loss, the loss of friendships, partnerships, and even a loss of the ability to express myself artistically through my instrument. These were difficult times, but in this solitude, I found the sanctuary of calm. When alone, we have the space to discover our authentic selves. Surrendering to the melancholy of loneliness unveils layers of vulnerability and creativity, allowing us to heal and find resilience through the process of composition and music making. I am grateful for music! Exclamation point. I thank Gerald Clayton, Ron Carter, and Carl Allen for helping me translate the feelings of sadness, relief, and ultimate resurgence of spirit that stemmed from my time spent alone. Wayne, is music about quote unquote effects such as rhythm, beats, or grooves, or is it about emotions such as joy and melancholy? How do you teach music to your students at Yale? How do you want us, your listeners, to interpret Alone?
Well, I think the affect portion of your statement is definitely holds true. I mean, I think music is more than beats and notes on a page, and I also think just writing adagio or lento at the top of the page is not going to necessarily uh, you know create the affect on people that you necessarily want it to. I mean, I think there's a lot more to it than that. But I think ultimately, we create art, whether it's visual art, whether it's music, number one, to express our feelings and our emotions, and also to move people. And I think as an artist, one of the things that we end up learning is that even though you might create music from a certain place, it doesn't mean that it's going to have that same feeling on someone else, right? So, for example, the first piece on the album, "Moments with You," is really kind of my reflection on love lost. But for some people, it's a very romantic sounding piece and brings people a certain kind of joy. So, you know, we write the music from a certain place, and people receive it how they receive it, and I think all is valid.
And so, Wayne, so really, you don't have any problem. Someone picks up excuse me, it is the Ice Queen, and they say this is not a, this is about, a happy relationship, and you don't have any problem with that?
Well, I mean, they can say, I mean, well, there are facts, and there are facts, and there are facts. I mean, it is not about a happy relationship, but it can, if someone hears it and it brings them joy, then I have no problem with that. I mean, I pretty much say specifically what it's about. So for someone to say it's about something else is just that's more ignorance than anything else. But if they feel a certain way, if I'm sad, if that piece came from sadness, and when I hear it, I'm angry because I think of this narcissistic ice queen. But someone else hears it and they feel kind of a different feeling. I have no problem with that.
Okay, excellent. Let's listen to Blues for DP. And how appropriate to listen to a blues, which means so many things to so many people all at once. So I'd like to open this up. Are there any questions, any comments? Would anyone like to jump in and say anything, ask anything to Wayne? Okay. So then my last question, Wayne, to you, what do you wish those who listen to this album?
Well, in the tradition of Dexter Gordon, who made a ballads album, John Coltrane, who made a ballads album, and Miles Davis, who was probably one of the ultimate balladeers. I just hope people can put this on and just be transported into a certain kind of place, a headspace, and enjoy it for what it is. And I hope that they can continue to listen to it and have different feelings every time they listen to it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see how we can get the album. And it is right here. It is Smoke Session Records. And it's easy enough. smokesessionsrecords.com. And we see it right there, front and center. There is Wayne Escoffery alone. There it is. You can download it, stream it, listen to it again. It's all right there. So it is smokesessionsrecords.com. I'll put this in the chat box. And to stay in touch with Wayne, we have instagram.com/Wayne_Escoffery. Wayne, people can find out about your upcoming concerts and reach out to you if they have any questions here.
Yeah, I put everything there and I answer to those messages. Yes.
Okay, so I'll put this also in the chat room. Again, that's Instagram.com/Wayne_Escoffery. Thank you so very much to Wayne Escoffery.
That's it. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So let's see what's coming up next week on Vienna Live. We have, and you can always check up all information about upcoming shows at www.cmore.com. And while you're at it, you can sign up for the Friday programming updates that I send out to tell you what's happening and my thoughts about it. So coming up on Wednesday, October 16th, we have Pritesh Walia, Hope Town, jazz guitarist extraordinaire Pritesh Pratesh Walia releases Hopetown, a fresh and deep excursion into the neo-mainstream, clean-toned jazz guitar trio tradition. Hopetown, which features bassist Chris Warden and drummer Jen Yoshimura, is available on November 1st. Come welcome Pratesh to our show. Once again, as always, all information about upcoming shows may be found at www.simimore.com. That's next Wednesday, Pratesh Walia, Hopetown. Once again, thank you so very much to Wayne Escoffery. Thank you to the Vienna Live sponsors, Victoria and Frederick Mulligan. Thank you to Abby Moser, Agnieszka and Benoit Rivolet and Mary Schlesinger for their support of this show. Thanks to my cousin Mike, a marketer from Layer App. If you're an architect or engineer, they have a really cool tool you should check out. Thanks most of all to you, our participants who make it all worthwhile from New York City, New York and Washington, D.C. Goodbye, and see you next Wednesday.